Crime and Punishment, set in the sweltering, impoverished streets of 1860s St. Petersburg, follows the psychological descent of Rodion Raskolnikov, a destitute former law student. Driven by a twisted theory he has penned, Raskolnikov believes that certain extraordinary individuals are above conventional morality and have the right to commit crimes for the greater good. He rationalizes that he is one such individual and that murdering Alyona Ivanovna, a repulsive and predatory pawnbroker, would rid society of a harmful parasite and provide him with the means to perform acts of charity. The novel opens with Raskolnikov in a state of feverish agitation, meticulously planning the murder. He is haunted by poverty, isolation, and a growing sense of alienation. His theory, born from desperation and a desire to prove his superiority, fuels his obsession. He sees Alyona as a loathsome figure who exploits the vulnerable, justifying his intent as a form of social justice. He executes his plan with brutal efficiency, striking Alyona down with an axe. However, the unexpected arrival of her gentle half-sister, Lizaveta, forces him to murder her as well, compounding his guilt and shattering his carefully constructed justifications. The act is messy, frantic, and far from the calculated, detached execution he envisioned. Immediately after the murders, Raskolnikov descends into a state of profound psychological turmoil. He becomes increasingly paranoid, convinced that he will be caught. He experiences vivid hallucinations, feverish delirium, and crippling anxiety. He isolates himself from his family and former friends, becoming a shadow of his former self. The constant presence of Porfiry Petrovich, the shrewd and perceptive investigating magistrate, further exacerbates his mental and emotional state. With his subtle psychological games and probing questions, Porfiry seems to understand Raskolnikov's guilt without concrete evidence. He engages in a cat-and-mouse game, slowly tightening the noose around Raskolnikov's conscience. Meanwhile, Raskolnikov encounters the Marmeladov family, a symbol of the abject poverty and despair that pervades St. Petersburg. He is deeply affected by the tragic fate of the drunken, self-destructive former civil servant, Marmeladov, and his virtuous daughter, Sonia. Sonia, forced into prostitution to support her family, becomes a crucial figure in Raskolnikov's journey. Raskolnikov is drawn to Sonia's profound faith and unwavering compassion. He confesses his crime to her, seeking solace and understanding. Sonia, despite her suffering, urges him to confess to the authorities and embrace redemption through suffering. She embodies the Christian ideals of humility, forgiveness, and atonement, which stand in stark contrast to Raskolnikov's nihilistic philosophy. His confession to Sonia is a pivotal moment, marking a turning point in his psychological struggle. She insists that he publicly confess his crime, kissing the ground and acknowledging his transgression. This act of public humiliation is meant to break his pride and pave the way for his spiritual rebirth. Raskolnikov's internal conflict intensifies as he grapples with the consequences of his actions and the growing pressure from Porfiry. He is torn between his pride, his desire to maintain his illusion of superiority, and the overwhelming burden of his guilt. His guilt and the pressure from Porfiry eventually break him. He surrenders to the authorities, confessing to the murders. He is sentenced to hard labor in Siberia, a punishment that mirrors his internal torment. Sonia, demonstrating her unwavering devotion, follows him to Siberia, offering him unwavering support and love. In Siberia, Raskolnikov continues to struggle with his pride and his inability to embrace repentance fully. He is initially ostracized by the other convicts, who see him as an intellectual and an atheist. However, Sonia's presence and her unwavering faith gradually begin to chip away at his hardened exterior. The climax of the novel occurs when Raskolnikov, after a period of intense spiritual struggle, finally acknowledges the error of his ways. He realizes that his theory is a delusion, a product of his arrogance and despair. He experiences a profound spiritual awakening, recognizing the inherent value of every human life and the importance of love and compassion. The novel concludes with Raskolnikov beginning his path toward redemption, supported by Sonia's unwavering love and faith. He starts to read the Bible, symbolizing his acceptance of a spiritual path. The ending suggests that while his journey is far from over, he has taken the first steps towards healing and reconciliation. Commentary. Crime and Punishment is a profound exploration of the human psyche, delving into the depths of guilt, redemption, and the struggle between reason and morality. Dostoevsky masterfully portrays the psychological torment of a man driven by a flawed ideology, showcasing the devastating consequences of intellectual hubris and moral relativism. The novel's enduring power lies in its unflinching examination of the human capacity for both evil and sound, and its ultimate affirmation of the power of love, faith, and suffering to bring about spiritual transformation. The novel remains a timeless exploration of moral philosophy and psychological realism.